A regular boy is happily strolling around town when he suddenly encounters the infamous Truck-kun on his walk. As a result, he finds himself in the middle of a purgatory-like realm, where he is deemed worthy of reincarnation. However, unlike the typical scenario where someone becomes a hero with cheat skills, he is reincarnated as Ziwei, the top martial artist in the world known as the Demon Lord. But in reality, this is far from the truth. You see, the administrator made a huge mistake. The boy wasn't supposed to be the Demon Lord Ziwei. Instead, he was sent back as Ah Wei, a regular old inn-waiter, destined to be casually killed by Ziwei. Still, it's not like he has any idea of this mix-up. And just like that, he begins spending his second life as a Demon Lord in disguise, completely unaware of the fact that he has absolutely no combat prowess. The story begins with a bald-headed man named Xiao Shuai staring right into my soul, about to face a life-or-death duel. Excuse me, but why does this guy look like the Riz Apple? Is this supposed to be a Vin Diesel ripoff? Alas, this is nothing more than a viral video created by a nobody. Apparently, the guy who created this video wanted to garner some attention and get paid for an advertising gig. But before he can cash in on his efforts, he is met with our beloved isekai master. Looks like Truck-kun is still hard at work. And the next thing you know, the boy finds himself in a white abyss. There, he encounters a purgatory receptionist who couldn't be more unmotivated to work. As per him, or is it a her? Can't really tell anymore. They were just about to clock out, and now have yet another task to complete. Regardless, it is explained that since the boy's video brought joy to many people, he can have another chance at life. However, he can't just choose freely. His fate will be decided by the random draw button on the lottery machine. And as luck would have it, he is given the title of Demon Lord Ziwei, the #1 martial arts expert in the world. Seeing this, the boy couldn't be more excited to start his new life and quickly enters the door connected to the world. However, once he leaves, the workers find something strange. As it turns out, this lottery machine is extremely outdated. Because of this, if there is a longer text, it cannot be seen fully. In reality, the boy has just been reincarnated as an inn-waiter named Ah Wei, who is destined to be casually killed by the Demon Lord Ziwei. Now that's a plot twist, if I've ever seen one. Nevertheless, the deed is already done. On the other hand, the boy next opens his eyes on a dark and rainy night in an unfamiliar place. He wonders where on earth he is, and that's when he remembers he has been sent back in time. Moreover, he still thinks he is supposed to be the Demon Lord Ziwei, commenting on how the #1 martial artist looks really shabby, probably because he isn't. Just then, he notices a strange plaque on the ground next to him. However, before he can pick it up, he senses someone's presence. In the blink of an eye, 3 men come running towards him. According to them, they sensed the aura of the Demon Lord Ziwei nearby and wanted to find him, but there was no trace of him anywhere. And that's when they happen upon Ah Wei, who is now holding the plaque he found. This plaque supposedly belongs to the demon sect, and the men begin glaring at him. From their perspective, Ah Wei is radiating an utterly bloodthirsty aura, and they start recalling the cruel ways in which Ziwei has defeated his foes. But things are different now. They claim Ziwei is infected with the 1,000-needle sex venom, making his current power no match for what it once was. Hearing this, Ah Wei thinks this must be the reason he has to disguise himself as a commoner, though he forgets to mention he actually is just a mere waiter at an inn. Still, it's not like anyone knows this, and as such, the men pull out their swords, announcing, "Today, we are determined to take your head." All the while, upon hearing this, Ah Wei begins laughing like a maniac. He questions what gave these guys the impression they could defeat him with only 3 people. To him, it doesn't matter that he has been poisoned. After all, he is still the top martial artist in the world. Of course, in reality, he is just a side character with exactly 0 combat prowess. But the men buy his story and start quivering in their boots. The leader, especially, looks conflicted, but ultimately decides to stick to their best attack from the start. And so, the 3 men get into formation and unleash the Golden Saint's sword. This summons a gigantic gold sword, one which reaches the skies. Nonetheless, Ah Wei is unfazed, thinking he won't be brought down with such tricks. Although he doesn't know how to use any martial arts techniques, he figures all he has to do is rely on the instincts of this body. Meanwhile, the men's plan backfires. If you're good at chemistry, you would know that gold is highly conductive. And on a stormy night like this, the gigantic sword is nothing more than a glorified lightning rod. In an instant, the sword attracts the lightning, electrocuting the 3 men immediately. Witnessing this, Ah Wei is left speechless. Just in an instant, these 3 experts were taken down, he exclaims. He thinks this is all thanks to his innate ability, not knowing he was just favored by the gods. It's also possible that his opponents were just a bunch of idiots, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, now that this ordeal is over, Ah Wei makes his way to a nearby bustling town. However, it looks like trouble has a way of following him everywhere. As he takes his first steps into the town, he begins hearing the gossip about the Demon Lord Ziwei. Hearing this, he thinks that his identity has been found out already, but it's all just a big misunderstanding. The townsfolk are just talking about the wanted poster put up recently for Ziwei. Realizing this, he takes a sigh of relief. Just then, a little kid recognizes him, asking what he is doing here. The boy takes Ah Wei back to the inn. On the way, Ah Wei claims he fell off a cliff and lost his memory. As per the boy, Ah Wei disappeared 2 days ago, and everyone thought he returned to his hometown. Nevertheless, now that he is back, the boy shows Ah Wei his room, telling him to get changed, since the chief is getting impatient. Consequently, Ah Wei begins rummaging through the room, thinking this must be his fake identity to stay hidden. I need to quickly become familiar with this identity, he states. With this, he begins to get changed, after which he is put to work instantly. His supervisor, a scary-looking guy, tells him to slaughter a chicken, and after seeing Ah Wei not working properly, begins scolding and condescending the poor lad. On the other hand, Ah Wei is convinced that he did these tasks to hide his aura and bloodthirsty nature, and out of nowhere, begins the chicken execution with a maniacal look on his face, lashing out at his supervisor. Little does he know, he is just a normal waiter. Now this is the end of the chapter, but Mr. Author has blessed us with a bit of the backstory. Thank you for your consideration, Author's son. A few hours before our hero was sent back in time, the real Demon Lord Ziwei is seen fighting a literal army, bringing them all to their knees. One of the leaders of the troops, a woman, tells her men to keep attacking, stating reinforcements are coming soon. Today we must stop the Demon Lord, she proclaims, but there's no way that's going to happen. All of a sudden, Ziwei begins sending orders to other subordinates of his sect. Seeing this, the woman tries to stop him from doing so, continuing the prolonged battle. Somewhere else, the real Ah Wei is burying Da Bun, a chicken he was forced to slaughter. Feeling guilty about the act, Ah Wei wants to at least give his victim a proper burial, and just as he is about to head back home, he is hit by the order plaque Ziwei sent out. Ultimately, this results in Ah Wei falling off the cliff, and this is how Ah Wei, the inn waiter, died while stopping the demon sect's message. At least he accomplished something in his life. Back in the present, Ah Wei smirks at the supervisor's chef, leaving the chef startled. The chef starts wondering what's wrong with this kid, noting that he was a very timid guy, until just now. Nevertheless, the chef refuses to tolerate such insolence. Apparently, this guy has been a resident of the underworld for many years, and cannot stand the thought of this brat acting up in front of him. Don't play games with me here. Believe me, I can turn you into a dish too, he threatens Ah Wei. Yeah, because there isn't anything known as health inspectors. Meanwhile, hearing the chef's rant, Ah Wei remains completely unconcerned. In his mind, he remarks on how the chef has a decent physique, though he doesn't seem to be the smartest tool in the shed. Nonetheless, Ah Wei's actually in a pickle. Being new to this town, he has to recruit some underlings, and decides to use the chef's muscles. Alas, being ignored hits a nerve with the chef, who becomes furious. All of a sudden, he grabs a fish and starts swinging it toward Ah Wei angrily, questioning how he dares ignore him. Of course, being the #1 martial artist in the world, Ah Wei evades gracefully before grabbing hold of the cleaver he used to slaughter the chicken earlier. "Let me test if you're really worthy," he exclaims. With this, he moves in closer toward the chef. Seeing this terrifying sight, the chef starts freaking out. In a panic, he accidentally stumbles on some blood and falls to the ground. In that instant, Ah Wei moves in for the kill. However, just before stabbing the chef, he stabs the wall behind him instead, menacingly questioning if the chef knows his favorite dish. Apparently, it's a pork cutlet, which sounds delicious by the way. Alas, being held at knife point isn't exactly helping the chef remember it. Or maybe it's helping drive the point home, who knows? Slowly but surely, Ah Wei kicks his intimidation tactics up a notch, ultimately leaving the chef in tears as he grovels on the ground, fearing for his life. On the other hand, Ah Wei is left unimpressed. He only just started with the routine here, and his potential future lackey is already cowering. Taking such a disgraceful minion outside, would only ruin the reputation of his dark clan, which I should remind you, does not exist because this guy is only a waiter. Just then, he notices that other members of the staff are watching all this unfold from the sidelines, though they quickly scatter once being discovered. Seeing this, Ah Wei becomes disappointed, wondering if this place is filled with misfits like this. All he wants is just one obedient subordinate. Is that too much to ask for? Well, yes, since he's just a loser in reality. All of a sudden, someone pulls on his pants. This someone is revealed to be none other than the young boy he met in town earlier. Pretty cute if I do say so myself. Anyway, once the ordeal is over, Ah Wei returns back to his room, his shed, where he comfortably lies on his bed for a well-deserved rest. As he lies there, he comments on all the stuff he has to do. Now that he has been reincarnated, like training in martial arts, and investigating the current state of the dark sect. The life of a master is never simple, after all. Luckily, he has found a promising talent today, and it's definitely not because the kid is cute. As per him, when it comes to martial arts, you have to start at a young age to ensure they turn out strong and reliable in the future. Suddenly, Ah Wei's stomach begins to grumble. As a result, he decides to go out and grab a late-night snack before going over to his new disciple to talk. Meanwhile, on the other side of the inn, the young boy from earlier is getting beat up by Qian Wujin, who is introduced as an ordinary innkeeper. Sure doesn't look like that to me. Though, Qian Wujin is enraged at what transpired today and hits the child after learning Ah Wei has supposedly lost his memories. With this, he begins trampling over both him and the child, calling them a perfect fit, a loser and an orphan. To him, it's unthinkable that a lowly waiter dared to provoke the chef, who happened to be a good friend of Zhao. As per him, fate has something cruel in store for both of them, and all they have to do is wait for Zhao's return. Just then, Qian Wujin gets an ingenious idea. On second thought, why not use this opportunity to help out that chef? He chuckles. Apparently, he wants to aid one of Zhao's acquaintances and then score some points with him when Zhao comes back. I'm a genius, aren't I? He arrogantly thinks. And so, he orders the boy to find a way and call Ah Wei over here. But before he can finish his sentence, the door suddenly pops off its hinges and comes flying at them. Witnessing this, Qian Wujin frantically turns back to see who the one responsible is, learning that Ah Wei is standing behind him. He, wielding a meat bun, announces that the time for talking and listening has passed, and it is time for the protagonist to enter the stage. On the other hand, Qian Wujin couldn't be happier seeing Ah Wei here. In his mind, this is the perfect opportunity to showcase his capabilities by beating Ah Wei to curry favor with Zhao. He questions how this lowly waiter came here on his own, whereas Ah Wei, who is currently lost in his delusional world, starts thinking that the boy will admire him even more once he saves him from this ordeal and deals with the blonde delinquent. This kind of good fortune. I absolutely won't let it slip away, they both think. I guess they aren't that different from each other after all. Both are weak losers. Qian Wujin advises Ah Wei to act sensibly and kneel to apologize if he fears death, stating he might consider sparing him if he does so. But Ah Wei doesn't seem fazed at all. Instead, he walks over to the boy's side, telling him to stand back and wait obediently for his return. Witnessing this cockiness, Qian Wujin loses his mind. Red with rage, he tells Ah Wei to stop pretending to be a big shot, announcing that trash will always remain trash. Consequently, he moves in for the first attack, but much to everyone's, including myself, surprise, Ah Wei easily dodges the punch. Moreover, he then grabs hold of Qian Wujin's arm and throws him to the ground before slowly and menacingly getting back on his feet. What happened to this guy having no combat power? Was that a lie? Apparently, Ah Wei learned this move back on Earth after watching all those fight videos and always wanted to give it a try. It's great he finally got the chance to do so. Even though, at the moment, he is unable to use any flashy techniques yet, with the internal energy this body possesses, his fists and kicks are unparalleled. Out of nowhere, he begins acting strangely, talking about how he should exercise restraint, or else he might end up killing someone, and exposing his secret identity. Meanwhile, Qian Wujin, who is lying on the floor, flabbergasted after getting tossed around, is scared senseless. Upon hearing Ah Wei's rambling, he comes to the realization that Ah Wei definitely has a more mysterious identity. Yeah, if mysterious means being a waiter at an inn. Nevertheless, the show is far from over. Ah Wei turns back and finds Qian Wujin still fully conscious, Seeing this, he gets surprised, wondering why this guy didn't get knocked out. Seems like bro forgot he has zero actual combat strength. All the while, Qian Wujin is perplexed. He has never seen a move like this before, though that's not surprising, since it's the first time Qian Wujin has attempted to hit anyone and gotten hit back. I guess he just likes to pick on the weak. Anyway, with his mind racing, Qian Wujin ultimately decides to ask just who on earth Ah Wei really is, but Ah Wei is not too thrilled about this question. In the blink of an eye, he closes the distance and grabs Qian Wujin by the throat, questioning, "How did you figure out my identity?" In his mind, he ponders over what is going on. Although obviously weak, Qian Wujin could sense his supposed secret identity. Not only that, this weakling can even withstand being thrown by the so-called Demon Lord. All the while, Qian Wujin, getting choked, manages to free himself, commenting on how his opponent is a madman. Still, now that he has been discovered, Ah Wei has no other choice but to dispose of this weakling. Therefore, he slaps Qian Wujin on the back, herniating a few of his spinal discs. With this, he boasts of his prowess, claiming this move is called the Endless Bone-Melting Palm. If one is hit by this move, it will die in 7 days as their bones slowly turn to mush. At least that's how it was described in the TV dramas he used to watch back in his original world. Goddamn, what kind of dramas are these? Of course, Qian Wujin has no idea. This is all just make-believe and wets his pants. And that's when Ah Wei starts his high and mighty act. Striking a JoJo pose, he asks if Qian Wujin is willing to die like this. He recalls a quote from someone, encouraging Qian Wujin to continue living, announcing that I can offer you another choice. All the while, somewhere else in the nearby forest, a female ninja is seen scouting out the area, commenting on how boring her duties are. As it turns out, this girl is Xia Yi, a constable of the ironclad gate sect. As per her, her dad only assigns her these boring tasks. Lately, things haven't been so peaceful, and hence, she is ordered not to wander far from the town gates. This is all because of the remnants of a demonic cult that managed to escape. As per Xia Yi's father, this is bound to cause some trouble sooner or later. On the other hand, Xia Yi wants to lend her father a helping hand. She vows to help catch the demonic cult remnants, claiming this will finally allow her to not be looked down on. As it turns out, after countless hardships, she has managed to get her hands on the portrait of an escaped fugitive, and she decides to see just how formidable her soon-to-be opponent is. But once she opens the portrait, she finds the picture of a well-endowed white-haired woman, striking a seductive pose. Obviously, not being as blessed as the woman in the portrait, Xia Yi is enraged and tears the portrait in half. Just then, all of a sudden, she spots some movement from the corner of her eye. Apparently, Ah Wei and the boy have ventured into the forest. There, the boy asks if martial arts will really help him not get bullied anymore. And Ah Wei confirms this, remarking at how easily he took down that blonde delinquent, act of Qian Wujin. Not only will martial arts help the boy not be bullied, but it will also make him the center of everyone's admiration. Hearing these sweet words, the boy immediately goes to his knees and begs Ah Wei to become his master. "I want to become powerful, please teach me." "Master," he exclaims. Just how strong is this kid? His doujinshi just shattered the ground. Meanwhile, back at Qian Wujin's family manor, he returns and is greeted by his beautiful personal maid, who, to be honest, is dressed more like a wench than a maid. Lucky bastard. Upon seeing him arrive, the maid comments on how Qian Wujin is running late today and reveals that a letter has arrived for him from the capital. However, Qian Wujin refuses to even look at the letter. He begins to wonder just what on earth is going on in the capital, that they need him for it. As of now, he has no time to go and deal with those old farts, and just dismisses the letter. In response, the maid then suggests she help her young master change into his clothes, explaining that his waist ailment issues also need medication. That's when she discovers something she never thought could happen. On her master's clothes, she finds a handprint and freaks out. Panicking out of her mind, she begins shedding tears, questioning who would dare hit Qian Wujin so hard that it left a handprint engraved into the garment. To her, even mosquitoes don't dare to bite her beloved young master. And such an attack is simply too much for her to see. But Qian Wujin is completely unfazed. He simply announces that he has no need for the medication going forward. It's explained that he has had a waist ailment for several years now, causing him much discomfort and suffering. However, No matter how accomplished the doctors he went to were, no one was able to help cure this issue. In circumstances like these, when even the doctors from the capital couldn't help, Ah Wei managed to heal it with just a simple palm strike. Damn, just how lucky can one guy get? Also, apparently, the doctors just didn't want to help the spoiled Qian Wujin. But it's not like I can blame them. According to Qian Wujin, Ah Wei helped him on purpose and for a reason. He thinks it might be because that waiter wants to use him for his plans or just to turn Qian Wujin into a pile of mush, as he said. Nevertheless, with little to no information, all he can do is learn more about his opponent, and he decides to go and talk to Ah Wei face to face. All the while, his maid is left utterly confused as to what is going on with her master. Back inside the forest, Ah Wei begins training his new disciple in the middle of the night. As per him, martial arts are all about 8 main methods and the use of internal and external unity from form and spirit. He teaches him the basics and then orders him to continue his efforts while he takes a break and thinks about which martial arts would suit the boy. There, as he takes a breather, he thinks about how even he has yet to finish the martial arts book he found about the demonic cult. As per him, the book mentions something called the Lao Shi technique, which doesn't sound like anything good, at least to Ah Wei. In his mind, if one continues training and practicing that technique, they are bound to become strong, though it's kind of evil. All of a sudden, the words of the 3 masters he defeated after reincarnating jump into his mind. Remembering them, he becomes distressed. He questions why on earth villains have to go around announcing their evil deeds to the entire world. I mean, wouldn't it be much safer to be a goody 2-shoes on the surface while carrying out their plan in secret? As things stand, Ah Wei is quite an embarrassing situation. Nonetheless, he decides not to get worked up over such matters. The fact is, he has managed to get his hands on a good student, and he wants to start the training with the basics. As a result, he calls the boy over, claiming he has decided to teach him Kung Fu. What's more, he even pulls out a book on the demonic sex martial arts. Seeing this, the kid asks where his master got his hands on this book. Also, I just realized they haven't told us the boy's name yet, and Ah Wei doesn't really know either. Regardless, Xia Yiji is seen watching over these two from on top of a tree. At first, she thought these two seemed suspicious, but now she's come to understand they are nothing but a bunch of idiots. In the first place, what will doing the horse stance in the middle of the night accomplish? More than she knows, I would say. From the looks of it, these two barely look like novices in martial arts, but she decides to keep an eye on them both just in case they get attacked by wolves or something. On the other hand, the duo was seen studying the books. There, Ah Wei wonders just how far the demonic sect has progressed with their Lao Shi technique, and questions how it will be further cultivated. However, there is no time for such thoughts. The boy reveals he is already done reading the text, and now wants to give it a go on his own. And Ah Wei encourages this. Consequently, the boy gets into the horse stance and punches the air. But, much to everyone's bafflement, this is no ordinary punch. The punch releases an immense shockwave, one that destroys everything and anything in its path. This is more clearly emphasized when Ah Wei's house, I meant shed, is almost turned to dust by the shockwave. Good thing it's still standing, I guess. Seeing this, both the boy and Ah Wei are left with their jaws on the floor. Ah Wei, especially, is freaking out. Damn, is my basic martial arts this powerful? He begins to wonder. Nevertheless, to keep up his master act, he plays it cool, while commenting on how it's only expected from the techniques of a demon lord. He tells the boy to keep working harder, to become the second best martial artist, and the boy enthusiastically agrees to do just that. The entire time, Xia Yiji is watching these events unfold with a terrified expression on her face. Upon seeing the aftermath of this basic technique, she begins to scream internally, questioning just, who the hell are these two? Anyway, after their intense training session comes to an end, Ah Wei returns to his lodging, which is barely holding on by a thread at this point. Xia Yiji, curious about these two, also decides to tail him from a distance. As she follows, she recalls her father's words about how true masters often hide among commoners. She berates herself for not recognizing these two as martial artists and dismissing them as nothing but fools. Witnessing the young boy's punch, she's now fully aware of his incredible strength and begins to wonder just how extraordinary the master of such a boy must be. Just then, the boy tells Ah Wei that he wants to move out of his current room and move in with his master. In response, Ah Wei claims it might be possible, though his current room is too small for both of them. To drive his point home, he gently touches one of the walls, but after taking the boy's punch head-on earlier, the house is in no condition to be tampered with. Out of nowhere, it completely crumbles to the ground. Seeing this with her own eyes, Xia Yiji is left flabbergasted, thinking Ah Wei destroyed the house just because of the lack of space. And not only her, Qian Wujin, who is revealed to be eavesdropping from the bushes, is completely stunned as well. While Ah Wei wonders if he failed to contain his power and talks about having to sleep on the streets, Qian Wujin seizes this chance to rush toward him. Suddenly, he grabs Ah Wei's leg, proclaiming him to be his master. Apparently, he has seen all he needed to, and it doesn't matter where Ah Wei came from. Just the fact that he was able to destroy a house with a light tap makes him a king of martial arts in Qian Wujin's eyes. This whole series is just a big misunderstanding. Nonetheless, Ah Wei isn't too keen on accepting a disciple like Qian Wujin. He orders the blondie to let go, but Qian Wujin refuses, adamantly stating he wants to follow Ah Wei. In addition, he proclaims he could be a useful tool, suggesting he has money and can use that to help Ah Wei fix his house. Being from a wealthy family sure comes in handy from time to time. However, Ah Wei is completely uninterested. He tells Qian Wujin to stop using money to insult him. To him, there is no way that a small innkeeper has a fortune hidden somewhere. But the very next day, all his doubts were cleared. Returning to his now desolate home, he is left speechless after witnessing Qian Wujin build an entire mansion for him overnight. He must be cousins with Bob the Builder, or something. And even this is supposed to be somewhat of a simple renovation, since the banks have a daily withdrawal limit. Alas, this stunt leaves Ah Wei with even more questions, and he asks why. If Qian Wujin has so much money, why did he decide to come work as an innkeeper? To this, Qian Wujin explains that in this world, strength and power are supreme, and martial arts are the strongest. As it turns out, there are also hidden talents in Yuhan Town, who are all on the assassin hit list, and Qian Wujin suggests that Ah Wei must be on that list as well. That would explain why he is working as a waiter, expressing that hiding in plain sight is the way to go. Furthermore, he reveals that there is no merit in being a weak loser if all you have is money. But Ah Wei is unable to accept this as true. He announces that financial ability is also a form of ability, claiming Qian Wujin can crush anyone with enough money. And in heeding the words of his new master, this is exactly what he plans to do. Consequently, he orders one of his servants to go and buy the inn Ah Wei is working in. Not only that, he pays 10 times the price, ensuring no one else could intervene. The inn's owner couldn't be happier, as the inn wasn't originally his anyway. And so, this is how Qian Wujin became the new owner of the inn. Just then, all of a sudden, someone enters the inn. Meanwhile, Ah Wei is seen sitting in a room trying to learn more about Yuhan Town. I mean, he only just came back to this time, so it's only natural. Suddenly, he hears a knock on the door and turns back to find none other than Xia Yiji. She introduces herself as a member of the Ironclad Gate and announces she wants to talk with Ah Wei. Consequently, she takes him out for a meal at a nearby restaurant, which, I must say, has some disturbing service. This is supposed to be the newest service at this pavilion, though it's obvious Ah Wei isn't too fond of it, and neither would I be. What even was that? Regardless, as the food begins to arrive, Xia Yiji decides to get right on top of things, claiming she is the daughter of the Ironclad Gate sect master, and that she has learned his real identity. Hearing this, Ah Wei begins to freak out. Within an instant, he plans to dispose of this girl as soon as possible, wanting to stay under the shadows. But it looks like Xia Yiji has the intelligence of a monkey. She thinks Ah Wei is a transcendent expert hiding in the mortal world. Obviously, Ah Wei had no idea this was coming, and he panics, although quickly regains his composure, and replies that he is just an ordinary man. In his mind, he is sure his disguise couldn't be seen through, commenting on how the Ironclad Gate is supposed to be a government office, aka his ops. But Xia Yiji mistakes Ah Wei's reply to be a sign of humbleness, remarking on how her father always used to say true experts are often humble. As a result, she begins sharing information with Ah Wei, telling him about the destruction of the demonic cult. According to her, the remnants of the sect are now scattered everywhere. Hearing this, Ah Wei once again starts joking, asking what any of this has to do with him. And that's when Xia Yiji gets all fired up. She stands up, loudly proclaiming this is the responsibility of everyone. The rise and fall of the world are at stake, and since the Ironclad Gate is short-handed, capturing the remnants is extremely urgent. As such, she wants to recruit Ah Wei, requesting his assistance in capturing these evildoers. Little does she know, she is talking with the leader of this demonic cult, even though it's self-proclaimed. Of course, Ah Wei cannot give her a response to this, and with a distorted and blank expression on his face, he blurts out, "Huh." Nonetheless, after having their meal, Xia Yiji takes our boy to a testing martial hall, filled to the brim with exquisite decorations and ornaments. Thinking this could be considered a visit to the enemy's headquarters, Ah Wei decides to dig for some information and asks what it's used for. Hearing this, Xia Yiji is perplexed at how he has never been tested, though she figures it's normal for someone to not care about such things after living in seclusion for a long time. She just called him a shut-in. Consequently, she explains that since a few years ago, the ironclad sect across various regions has set up testing halls to assess the strength of martial artists and masters. The rankings range from martial disciple to martial gods, and as per the different levels, the sect issues a distinct colored jade plaque. Apparently, Xia Yiji has a green plaque, indicating she is an intermediate martial artist. Hearing this, Ah Wei gets curious and asks what color plaque the martial gods receive. However, Xia Yiji has no idea. It would be better to say no one knows. To this day, no one has managed to reach the martial god's status. Then why even have it in the first place? According to rumors, they say that achieving this level gives you the opportunity to open a heavenly gate and ascend to another world. Understanding all this, Ah Wei begins to wonder how strong the original host's power really was and why he never got tested before this. But he soon realizes that if he gets the attention of the ironclad sect, it will become an extremely troublesome situation. As a result, he falls deep into thought about what his next step is going to be, but Xia Yiji grows impatient. All of a sudden, she grabs him by the arm, telling him to stop overthinking. Since they are here anyway, it's best to give the testing hall a shot, and she begins dragging him there. All the while, she thinks about how they will have no trouble suppressing those evil sect members if a master, supposedly as strong as Ah Wei, joins their ranks. At that moment, she is smiling brighter than the sun, happy that she can be of some use to her sect. Alas, fate is a cruel mistress. Soon after the testing, the orb remains colorless. Seeing this, Xia Yiji couldn't be more astonished. The orb is not even white, it's completely transparent, which indicates a complete lack of martial arts foundation. No, that sounds about right. He's just a waiter after all. Meanwhile, Ah Wei is surprised too. However, thanks to living in a world of delusion, he convinces himself that the original owner of the body must have practiced a technique that could hide their true strength. Truly deserving of being the top figure in the martial world, he thinks. Big words for a complete loser. To him, it doesn't matter if the whole world perceives him as an incompetent fool, as long as he knows he is the top martial artist in the world, which he clearly isn't. With this, he begins to smirk with a smug look on his face. On the flip side, Xia Yiji thinks there must be something wrong. Ever since its establishment, the testing hall has never made a mistake, and hence, there shouldn't be any issues with the results. What's more, she witnessed Ah Wei's strength firsthand, and she is curious to know why his power couldn't be measured properly. That's when she remembers something important. Apparently, when she was a child, her father told her something. According to him, the practice of martial arts is akin to studying and enlightenment. In the start, all things are easy, and slowly evolve into becoming more complex. Due to this, the most difficult thing to do is return to simplicity. He deemed this to be the highest true realm, and now, Xia Yiji, believing her father's words, thinks Ah Wei must be someone who has already cultivated his technique to this level. Alas, when she comes back to her senses, she finds Ah Wei has disappeared. Panicked, she tries to look for him. But as she does so, someone sneaks up behind her. It turns out to be Xia Yiji's father, and just like that, a scolding session begins. After learning what transpired, the leader of the ironclad sect is enraged at the fact Xia Yiji let the portrait of the demon sect remain and be ripped apart. As his daughter, she has brought shame to him, and he asks how on earth he is supposed to explain all this to the other heads. Of course, Xia Yiji claims she was just trying to help, but her father, Xia Fu, continues chewing her out. In the first place, he had someone take care of the captured document already, and that too, at a heavy price. In that case, what did Xia Yiji try to accomplish? With this, Xia Fu takes a look at the painting, which has now been repaired and turns red as a beet. Immediately, he decides to confiscate the painting for later use, if you know what I mean. Naughty, aren't we, Mr. Sect Leader? Suddenly, as Xia Fu goes silent, Yiji chimes in. She announces that although the demon sect has been eradicated, many of its influential members are still free. If they all were to make a comeback, it would surely cause a catastrophe. But Xia Fu remains strict in his response, telling Yi that this matter doesn't concern you. The fact is, all those who haven't been captured yet are extremely strong, and the strength of the Demon Lord Ziwei is not something they can casually provoke. Hearing this, Xia Yi begins to pout, whereas Xia Fu continues, stating they need to be very careful with their plans. Nevertheless, Xia Yi is still not convinced. But what if a martial god were to emerge? She asks her father, who is left shocked at her question. And so she asked again, what if we could recruit a martial god? Little does she know, the martial god in question is actually just a good-for-nothing. Later on, while his disciples continue their training, Ah Wei begins rummaging through all the demonic sect books he has. There, he learns that the sect has many high-level techniques such as swordsmanship, boxing, mind techniques, internal energy, and even hidden weapons. What's more, he finds all these high-level techniques in the demonic sect's token. To him, with so many varieties, these martial arts truly deserve to be the best in the world. Not only that, he starts to wonder how powerful these techniques will really be. Last time, even a basic punch was able to unleash unfathomable strength. So wouldn't a higher level technique be in an entirely different class? And that's when he decides to give this a go. Suddenly, he gets up and exits the room, interrupting the boy and Qian Wujin, who are still hard at work training. Seeing him come out, the boy asks his master if they will continue training the boxing from before, but Ah Wei refuses, saying he wants to try learning something new today. Meanwhile, Xia Fu and Xia Yi make their way to Ah Wei's mansion. Along the way, Xia Yi adamantly tells her father to believe her, claiming all of his doubts will be cleared after they reach their destination. She explains that she witnessed the power of Ah Wei and his disciple firsthand, claiming that the shockwave from the young boy was strong enough to level a mountain in a single punch. Of course, Xia Fu is still skeptical. It's not that he doesn't trust his daughter, rather, her story is just too unbelievable to accept without hesitation. Sounds like he just doesn't trust his daughter, but whatever. In his mind, he questions if this is really possible, a 6-year-old child who can level a mountain, and someone who, despite being labeled as a martial disciple per the testing hall, can destroy a house with just a flick of his finger. If someone with such strength really existed, at the very least, they would be a well-known person in the martial arts world. However, Xia Fu has never heard of someone like this. But while Xia Fu goes into deep thought, he finds Yi frozen in place. Not only that, she is terrified and shaken to her core. As it turns out, the boy is diligently training when these two close in. But unlike before, he is now practicing the high-level technique taught to him. Out of nowhere, the image of Buddha appears behind him, and slowly but surely, Buddha's hands begin to descend. On the flip side, Xia Fu's eyes nearly pop out of his head after witnessing such a sight. Realizing that the incoming palm will crush both him and his daughter, he has no time to waste dilly-dallying around. In the blink of an eye, he orders his daughter to back off and takes the lead. In addition, he uses a defensive formation called the 9 Curves Heart Guard to protect himself and his family from certain death. This is my last resort, he claims. With this technique, he thinks he should be able to withstand this fearsome attack. And so he prepares to take the blow head-on, erecting a barrier for maximum protection. Alas, his technique is no match for the incoming hand. Like a hot knife through butter, Buddha's palm shatters Xia Fu's barriers with ease before disappearing into thin air. So much for that being the last resort. Meanwhile, having accomplished and mastered his technique, the boy couldn't be happier and excitedly tells his master of his achievement. All the while, Qian Wujin is seen watching in awe, left to wonder if they are really even training the same thing. You see, he cannot even hope to accomplish a fraction of what this boy was able to do. Nevertheless, being the good master he is, Ah Wei tries to comfort him, claiming everyone has their own different strengths. It might be that this technique just isn't suitable for Qian Wujin. Regardless, Ah Wei couldn't be happier to have gotten his hands on such a promising young talent. Witnessing the palm of Tathagata being successfully performed, he reckons that other techniques can be performed as well, such as the absorbing stars. In addition, it would be a waste to not bring a unique skill to this world, especially when they have a reincarnated individual on hold. All of a sudden, all three of them hear a loud scream in the distance. Apparently, blocking the palm of Tathagata has left Xia Fu in an immobile state. Xia Yi, who is panicking out of her mind right now, rushes to her father's side, asking if he's alright. Seeing Xia Yi so distressed, Ah Wei inquires as to what these two are doing here. As a result, Yi explains that the man on the floor is her father. She wanted to bring him here for a visit, but didn't know Ah Wei would be out training with his disciples. When the boy sent out the palm, her father tried to protect her and ended up in this state. However, out of nowhere, Siafu regains consciousness and claims he is fine. Although he certainly isn't, he's vomiting blood for Pete's sake. Despite this, he apologizes to Ah Wei for coming here without informing them beforehand. In his mind, he has confirmed what Xia Yiji said to be the truth. The boy really possesses the power to level a mountain. The fact is, even after using his best defensive technique, he was unable to stop the boy's blow. What's more, he notes that Ah Wei, the boy's master, shows absolutely no aura, and begins to think Ah Wei might have already cultivated to the highest realm, and his power is simply not strong enough to see through. Nonetheless, he greets Ah Wei, introducing himself as the sect leader for the Ironclad sect and Yiji's father. Alas, upon hearing that the one in front of him is the leader of his enemies, Ah Wei loses his mind and begins to shiver in his boots. What happens to being the Demon Lord? Why are you scared? It's revealed that the Ironclad sect is filled with all sorts of talented individuals, and unlike the hit list of assassins, joining the sect would be more akin to joining a government organization. Although you cannot act as freely as the assassins, joining the sect means you have the court watching your back. In the present, Qian Wujin is left in admiration after seeing Xia Fu here, commenting on how he never imagined meeting a big shot like him. On the other hand, Xia Fu is distressed. To him, Ah Wei's silence implies he has messed up in some way, and he tries to open his eyes to see what Ah Wei is doing. However, upon seeing Ah Wei's blank, displeased expression, he loses his mind. Actually, to me, it looks like he's constipated rather than angry. Just then, while Ah Wei is in deep thought, the young boy calls out to him with a worried look on his face. The boy expresses how Xia Fu isn't looking very good. Hearing this, Ah Wei finally comes to the conclusion that he has nothing to worry about. The fact is, his identity hasn't been discovered yet, so he has nothing to worry about. Moreover, he completely passed, or rather failed, the martial arts test, meaning they have no reason to suspect him. If this is true, acting naturally in front of these two enemies to infiltrate the enemy ranks is the best plan of action. And so, he does just that. While Xia Fu is lingering between life and death, he calls out to him, instantly revitalizing the sect leader. With this, Xia Fu then once again apologizes for disturbing Ah Wei's training. Alas, Ah Wei claims there is no need to apologize. He was just practicing casually with a kid, and it's not like he is a high-ranking expert anyway. I'm just an ordinary person, he states. Hearing this, Xia Fu drops the topic and asks how he should address Ah Wei. In his mind, he thinks that Ah Wei is trying to hide his true identity, suggesting that this might be the reason he was angry earlier. Anyway, Xia Fu tries to get all casual with Ah Wei, and they both start making small talk. Eventually, Xia Fu comes to the main topic. He heard that Ah Wei, the new owner of the first inn, has a remarkable demeanor, and hence, he wanted to come meet him, though it didn't turn out to get best time. In addition, he also praises Ah Wei's potential, claiming he will surely accomplish great things in the future. Nevertheless, he has something to ask of this young man. He questions how a child managed to learn such powerful techniques and use them so efficiently. Hearing this, Ah Wei is shocked, but quickly begins to explain the technique. On the other hand, at a temple somewhere else, a young boy is seen running up to his master, Rukong, excited to tell him what he saw. However, Rukong tells him to calm down. He too witnessed the natural phenomenon of the arrival of Tathagata, and so he tells the boy to call his senior brother here, asking if the boy wants to go down the mountain. What's more, he also remarks that things are going to be exciting, especially once the martial arts competition is approaching. Back at the inn, Xia Fu and Xia Yiji take their leave, stating they will come back another day to visit. Apparently, the explanation he gave to Xia Fu wasn't the full version. After all, he's from the enemy troops, so Ah Wei needs to keep something in reserve. All of a sudden, his young disciple grabs his hand. With a saddened expression on his face, he timidly asks if he has caused trouble for his master. But Ah Wei dismisses this as not the case. In fact, it's the master's fault for not checking the surroundings properly, and he tells the boy to go and rest, while he was out for a refreshing walk. In his mind, he couldn't have asked for a better disciple, admiring his talent and making him proud to have such a student. With this, Ah Wei takes his leave, but inside the boy's room, he takes off his cap. There, he gets to thinking about how well his master treats him, vowing to keep working hard. Meanwhile, as he takes off his cap, his long hair flows out, revealing that he was actually a she the entire time. Now that's a plot twist, if I have ever seen one. Also, just name this character already, please. On the other hand, Ah Wei goes out on his walk, wondering what the power level of the Palm of Tathagata will be if he gives it a try himself. As such, he goes to a barren land to practice, but suddenly, he hears someone's voice from the cliff top. Consequently, he tries to call out to this someone, whereas, up the cliff, a woman, panting heavily, is seen in a distressed state. Upon having been discovered, she gets all anxious, questioning how someone found her in such a place. All she wanted was some peace and quiet while healing her injuries, but I guess that's too much to ask for. Also, why does she look familiar? Alas, there's no time for questions right now. Out of nowhere, she powers up and busts a hole in the cave wall. "I can't die here," she announces as she tries to make her escape. Apparently, her master is waiting for her, and in such disastrous moments, she has to keep her composure and determination to not fall now. But soon, she reaches her limits and collapses to the ground. Just then, she spots a figure in the distance. As she falls unconscious, Ah Wei, having found the woman, rescues her, carrying her out of the cave. Not only that, he then takes her back to the inn, where he begins bandaging her wounds. Eventually, as he stops her bleeding, Ah Wei is left exhausted and decides to take a break. There, he reveals he has been up all night caring for this woman, and they say chivalry is dead. Luckily for him, he saw some informative videos back in his original world, so he knows how to handle emergencies. While the woman writhes in pain, calling out for her master in her unconscious state, Ah Wei keeps a keen eye on her, commenting on how she is still longing for her master. All of a sudden, he hears a knock at the door and quickly goes to see who it is. That's when one of the servants explains that someone is here to meet Ah Wei. Of course, he wants to know who has come to see him, and lo and behold, it's none other than Yiji. Seeing her here, Ah Wei is immediately on guard. He shuts the door behind him, asking why she is here. Consequently, she claims that she is here to deliver something to Ah Wei from her father. With this, she hands over a pouch to him, which he opens without wasting a second, despite Yiji warning him not to do so. But this doesn't end up being the best decision, since items begin mysteriously pouring out of the bag. Apparently, this is no mere pouch. It is an item called the spatial pocket. Nevertheless, the deed is already done, and the items are now scattered on the floor. As such, both Yiji and Ah Wei begin gathering them up. While they do, he asks what kind of stuff this is, and Yiji states that there are all sorts of things here. Yeah, no Sherlock. In a flashback, Fu was left in complete awe after meeting Ah Wei, so much so that he wanted to give the man a gift from the sect. The package consists of various elixirs, manuals, and weapons, and Yiji explains that these are her father's lifelong collections. Moreover, there are even scrolls. As it turns out, giving a gift wasn't the ironclad sex-only motive. Rather, they wanted Ah Wei to keep an eye out for their enemies. Since this inn is supposed to be the biggest in town, it is sure to have the largest flow of people. Because of this, the inn is a hub for travelers, and the sect wants to use this to their advantage. The escaped remnants of the demonic cult are still at large, and they want Ah Wei to keep an eye on any suspicious people and report them to the sect to claim a bounty. So basically, they want Ah Wei to tell on himself. And so she opens one of the scrolls, telling Ah Wei to not be fooled by the appearance of the demonic remnants. She pulls out the picture of the white-haired girl, who just so happens to be in Ah Wei's room as we speak. See, I told you she looked familiar. According to Yiji, this woman is a killing machine. Raised by the Purple Weave Emperors, she is a famous figure in the demonic society, who once wiped out 3 smaller sects that rebelled against the Purple Emperors in a single night. As per the rumors, it is said that she escaped to Yuhan province. Hearing all this, Ah Wei realizes that this woman and the girl he saved are the very same and freaks out. Seeing his reaction, Yiji is also taken aback. Just then, she senses something strange. There, Ah Wei smells of blood, and she asks if he or anyone else is injured. Not only that, but she begins suspecting that someone must be in the room behind them and tries to barge in, but Ah Wei stops her, announcing that this is his room and she doesn't have permission to enter. But all this does is pique Yiji's curiosity even more, and she forces her way in. Of course, Ah Wei is left distressed over these events, but much to his surprise, when Yiji enters, there is no one in the room. Obviously, this isn't enough to satisfy Yiji. However, Ah Wei comes up with a good fake story, claiming he saved a kitten from the mountain, and that the smell of blood must be from that. Moreover, once he treated the cat, it disappeared altogether without him even knowing it. All the while, the white-haired woman is seen to be hiding. Anyway, Xia Yiji ultimately buys this story, commenting on how it's a shame that the cat got away, since it might have belonged to the Wanhu Pavilion. How dumb can she really be? According to her, Wanhu Pavilion is here to participate in the upcoming martial arts competition coming up, and cats are sacred beasts to them. She also adds how Yuhang Town has been chosen to be the venue this year, remarking that it's going to be lively for a while now. However, upon hearing about the Wanhu Pavilion, Ah Wei gets enraged. He remembers this to be the same sect that poisoned him, making it impossible for him to showcase his abilities, not knowing he has absolutely zero combat power. In response, he asks if he can still sign up for the competition, and Xia Yiji reveals it is possible. In addition, she asks if Ah Wei is going to add his disciple into the mix, and he confirms this, stating it's always good to let the young experience the real world. Finally, the boy, or I mean girl, is introduced. Her name's Shuai, apparently. Regardless, after making some small talk, Xia Yiji begins to take her leave. The entire time, Ah Wei is seen scheming, conjuring up his new plan of action. As per him, since the Purple Weave Emperor has disappeared, if someone strong appears out of nowhere, they are going to be suspected by everyone. As such, he plans to use Shuai's innate ability as a cover to enact his evil schemes from the background. Hiding in the shadows, he can find opportunities to make new connections with the people of Wanbu Pavilion and get rid of the poison in his body. On the other hand, after Xia Yiji leaves, the white-haired woman comes out of hiding. There, she grabs Ah Wei's clothes and begins sniffing them passionately. Is this what you call a pervert? Thanks to this, she's finally able to confirm her suspicions, announcing, "This is the aura of the master." It's explained that the competition is jointly organized by 3 major sects, and the winner will be rewarded with substantial prizes, including money, elixirs, and artifacts. Additionally, the winner can gain prominence in the martial arts world, thanks to their prowess, as well as receive the opportunity to forge relationships with members of the 3 major sects, allowing them to reach the top ranks in one swift move. As a result, participating in this grand event and winning has become the lifelong goal of many aspiring martial artists. Due to this, many promising talents take part, hoping to reach their dreams. Back at the inn, Qian Wujin begins making a ruckus, telling his master that he wants to join the tournament as well. But Ah Wei refuses, claiming there is no way in hell that's going to happen. Qian Wujin is a weakling after all. You see, he needs a reliable and trustworthy man to stay behind and manage things here. This will allow both him and Xiao Shuai to concentrate on the tournament. When both Xiao Shuai and I are away, the inn will be in your hands, he tells Qian Wujin, who is easily tricked and agrees to stay behind. He's also an idiot, it turns out. Anyway, with this, Ah Wei begins making his way to the tournament arena. There, in the arena, a huge crowd is seen. Everyone is waiting patiently to receive their number tag to participate. However, things suddenly begin stalling. As it turns out, Ah Wei is the cause of all this. He, along with Shuai, has come fully decked out in divine equipment, stuff that costs a fortune and is unattainable for the commoners. He's just mogging them all at this point. Because of this, they quickly become the center of attention, and Ah Wei couldn't be happier. Nevertheless, he still has his doubts about this contest. From his perspective, there are only weaklings here. Just then, out of nowhere, Ah Wei and Shuai are confronted by a group of thugs. The leader of the group, thinking this is Ah Wei's first time participating in the tournament, reveals that there is no need for all this divine armor for the audition match, suggesting he hold onto it while Ah Wei goes to fight. Of course, Ah Wei can see the scammer's intentions from a mile away and refuses, stating it's his disciple's piece of gear, and it's better for him to hold on to it himself. Having been refused, the thug leader is obviously not very happy and begins glaring at him. Nonetheless, Ah Wei couldn't be less concerned, and, upon seeing a worker handing out the tasks, goes over to collect one for himself. In his mind, he comments on how the guy from earlier looks like a side character, one that probably won't make it past this chapter. Now that's what you call breaking the fourth wall. Still, the most important thing here is the competition. Eventually, the worker, after handing out the rules for the auditions, starts the competition. As per her, there's a 12-hour deadline to complete this audition, and after that, the real tournament will begin. But, upon seeing the task, Ah Wei is perplexed. Apparently, the organizers want them all to go out and collect some herbs, and Ah Wei is very much against this. To him, This is nothing more than doing free labor, and it makes no sense for aspiring martial artists to do this. Alas, he has no other choice but to follow the rules if he wants to take part in the contest. Later that night, Ah Wei and Shuai decide to take a small break after their efforts and rest under a tree. But this probably isn't the best idea. As it turns out, the thugs from earlier have been tailing these two the entire day. From what they have seen, it's evident that neither of these two is proficient in martial arts. For them, this makes things easier, and they plan on robbing the duo and selling all their items to make a fortune. What's more, they also find a dimensional pocket on Ah Wei, thinking there are sure to be even more treasures inside. And so, the leader orders his men to get him, and the group commences its attack. Alas, just as the thugs jump in, they are immediately all caught by a giant spider web. All of a sudden, Ah Wei wakes up from his supposed slumber, remarking how side characters like these aren't even going to survive a single chapter. Apparently, the web was activated, thanks to a red cloud silk, an item he received from his benefactor. Ah, so this is the joy of being Spider-Man, he thinks as he captures these low lifes. With this, he then turns his attention towards the leader, questioning if he really thought they had fooled him. Apparently, this was all a part of Ah Wei's plan, and he intentionally showed off his wealth and acted as a noob to lure in these thugs. Anyway, now that he has captured them all, he wants to get to the main topic. The fact is, he still isn't very familiar with this world, and even though he doesn't want to complicate things, he has no other choice. Just like that, he menacingly closes in on the leader, claiming, "I'll have to trouble you kind people to help me out," with a malicious expression on his face. Meanwhile, at a restaurant somewhere in town, Xia Yiji is seen having a meal with someone. As they both talk, she comments on how unexpected it is that her friend would become the supervisor for the competition. But her friend reveals there is no way to avoid it. No one really knows what is going on in the mind of the emperor, asking if Xia Yiji's father didn't tell her about such a big matter. But upon hearing this, Xia Yiji begins pouting, claiming her father doesn't have the time to talk to her. Lately, he's been obsessed with practicing martial arts and hasn't even left the house for quite some time now. Finally, Xia Yiji's friend is introduced as the Holy Maiden of Wangu Pavilion, Dream Qian Qiyu. There, she talks about how it's been many years since Xia Fu broke through to the Martial Saint level, and how this 9-bound Earth Protection formation has already been perfected. From her perspective, reaching this realm is no easy feat, and it far surpasses many people's lifelong achievements. As such, she suggests Xia Yiji try to persuade her father to stop his cultivation. But Xia Yiji isn't too sure about this idea. The fact is, Xia Fu's temperament isn't something anyone can persuade, especially not his daughter. Nevertheless, she wants to move away from this topic. Not only that, she then begins talking about how she recently met a hidden master. Hearing these words, Qian Qiyu is left extremely concerned. She thinks that her beloved, airheaded friend has fallen for someone strange again, questioning if she knows his real identity and personality. But Xia Yiji tells her not to worry, since her father has already sent out many people to investigate Ah Wei's background. Moreover, she explains he is someone who cares for animals as well as people, stating, "He's definitely a great person." She couldn't be more wrong though. On the other hand, this great person in question is currently robbing the thugs blind. What goes around comes around, I guess. From the leader, he gets his hands on the black ginseng, remarking on how it's completely different from the drawing. In addition, he finds it apparently very similar to the ginseng his grandmother used in soup, but hearing this, the thug leader is astonished. As it turns out, this is a very expensive herb, making the leader perplexed at just how much money Ah Wei possesses. Anyways, now that he has retrieved the herb, Ah Wei decides to finish things, telling the thugs to leave immediately. Obviously, the leader is taken aback by this statement, thinking he is for sure going to be killed. But Ah Wei has other ideas in mind. Apparently, the cleanup is way too much of a hassle to discard these small fries, and he tells the thugs to appreciate the gift called life. In addition, being a fellow antagonist-type character, he has some advice for the leader. With this, he begins rambling on about something, which the thug leader mistakes for more intimidation. Consequently, he takes his men and quickly runs away. The following day, Ah Wei wakes up in the middle of the day. Looks like someone overslept. Anyways, as he opens his eyes, he is greeted by Shuai, who has been hard at work since the morning. Apparently, he has not only gathered a fruit called the Fruit of Wisdom, he even found a mountain of black ginseng. Seeing this, Ah Wei couldn't be more excited, telling Shuai to hide them all for safe storage until they bring them to the organizers. The next time, but the white-haired woman is seen secretly keeping an eye on these two. Back in the arena, Qiyu is chewing out all the participants who have brought back unsatisfactory herbs. To her, this audition is completely worthless, and it would have been better to just issue a wide-scale purchase notice. However, her assistant tells her otherwise. According to her, many places have experienced disasters this year, making the black ginseng even harder to find. Not only that, the traders are also trying to inflate the prices of the black ginseng, making it so that the court cannot afford them. Hearing this, Qiyu is disgusted. To her, these merchants just look to be taking advantage of the nobles. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by Ah Wei, who asks if this is where they have to submit the herbs. As he comes to the front, he comments on how the topic was abstract, so he isn't sure if this is what the organizers wanted. Of course, Dream Qiyu was even more agitated by this, claiming she was the one who personally drew the picture. But as soon as Ah Wei opens up his dimensional pocket, she is left flabbergasted. With her jaw on the floor, she is shocked to see a specimen of top-grade black ginseng. Not just one, but a whole mountain. As per her, this herb is so rare that even if a mountain is dug up, only a few can be found. Of course, Ah Wei is completely unaware of this fact. He tells Qiyu to choose however much she wants, leaving her even more surprised. Eventually, she explains that only one black ginseng, that 2 of a low level, is enough to advance to the next round. But Ah Wei tells her to take it all. Since he picked this up earlier, he has no desire to eat this. Hearing this, Dream Qiyu reaches her limit. She thinks this must be Ah Wei's attempt to curry favor with Wangu Pavilion. I see. I completely understand now, she thinks. She thanks Ah Wei for his generosity, claiming the Wangu Pavilion acknowledges this favor. Moreover, she then introduces herself as the Holy Maiden of the Pavilion.